In terms of professional ethics, nothing new, nothing too new here. And the fundamental principles of our ICAEW Code of Ethics is basically IO Candy Petty Cash, so IOCPC. So I stands for integrity, which basically means honesty, and you should be straightforward in all your dealings with your clients. O stands for objectivity, and it relates to a mental state, and it should be free from any form of bias, and we should be also free from conflicts of interest. I highlighted that in red. I put 5 stars next to it because that is the more popular one. Confidentiality is to keep clients' information strictly confidential because of your rights, like I said earlier this morning, where auditors have full access to all books and records. So a lot of sensitive information will be disclosed to you. You are not to disclose them or even worse, to profit from them. Next is P, stands for professional behavior. And basically under behavior, whatever that you do, your actions must not bring disrepute to the institute's name. So you shouldn't tarnish the institute's name, whatever that you do. And the final C stands for competency and due care, and that we must update our technical knowledge regularly. And the purpose of that is to ensure that we provide appropriate advice to our client. So if there's a change in accounting standards, there's a change in auditing standards, if you are an auditor, you should update yourself immediately. Okay, don't leave it until too late. Then clearly you will be incompetent. Right? A classic example of competency and due care is this thing called a CPD. And I believe you guys are also bound by CPD, which is a continuing professional development. So you definitely have to spend a few hours outside the books of ICAEW to improve yourself. In whatever areas, I don't think we govern it. You want to go and study marketing book, you want to go and read economics book, that's all fine. As long as you update and upgrade yourself at all times. Okay, the other one that is quite popular in exam is this thing called independence, but independence is not part of the fundamental principles. Okay, but independence is basically a freedom from any form of relationship that may threaten our objectivity or that may cloud our judgment. So they tend to ask objectivity and independence quite regularly. There are 3 circumstances where confidential information can be disclosed to a third party. So number 1, when there is a legal and a professional duty to disclose. And in this situation, it is mandatory to disclose. You must disclose it. And the classic examples of legal duty is when your client is involved or is suspected to be involved in money laundering activity, terrorism, treason. Professional duty is basically when there is an oversight board reviewing the work of the auditors. So like ARGA or FRC, they can actually instruct the audit firm to open up their working papers because they want to audit the work that was carried out by the auditor to ensure that the quality complies with ISQC1. Okay. Second is this public duty to disclose. So that would be a voluntary disclosure. And a classic example for public duty is when you're being sued for negligence. If the shareholders are suing the external auditors for a poor quality work for negligence, then clearly you may open up your working papers to show to the judge what you've carried out and whether you've complied with ISA. Okay. And finally, when there's a consent from client, again, it's a voluntary disclosure. And consent from client is whenever bank confirmation, trade receivables confirmation, or whenever there are changes in any auditor, you're outgoing or you're the incoming auditor, you need permission to communicate with the outgoing or the incoming auditor. Okay, so again, pretty much very chapter 16, CFAP textbook. All right, threats to objectivity. So there will be 6 types of threats. All right, and if they ask on ethical issues, there are actually basically 10 types because that includes the I, the C, the P, and the C. Okay, so you got to read the requirements very carefully. Some questions ask strictly on objectivity. Some questions states ethical issues. If ethical issues mean full spectrum, you can talk about integrity, objectivity that can be split into 6, C, B, C. But if they only ask on objectivity, you can only talk about the 6 threats. Understand what guys I'm trying to say, yeah? So the objectivity threats are 1, self-interest, 2, self-review, 3, advocacy, 4, management, familiarity, and intimidation. Okay, so there are the 6 threats of objectivity. There are questions, again, I'm repeating this, yeah, that only ask for objectivity. You only stick to these 6. You don't bring in integrity, you don't bring in competency, you don't bring in behavior into your answer. But there are questions that will ask for ethical, you can bring in everything. Okay, but again, look at the marks allocation, determine how much to write. Don't try to be funny and write everything because there is no negative marking. So clearly you will get full marks, but you're going to compensate final question. That means you're going to start borrowing time. If you want to write everything, you're going to start borrowing time without a doubt. Okay, and when you borrow, that means you're going to leave one question, most likely unattempted, and that's a disaster. Okay, all right. During a CFAP, it was nice because you just tick the boxes. Am I right? A, B, C, D, E, just choose the boxes, and then you get your 2 marks, and then you pass your CFAP. Simple as ABC. Okay? Over here, however, your examiner has stressed. If it's in an SFQ, part A of the exam paper, writing self-interest will give you half a mark. Self-review, half a mark. SFQ. If you just write the threats, you get half a mark each. In the long paper, which is part B, the written form question, if you write self-interest, you get 0 mark. We've made it very, very clear. You have to explain the self-interest. Okay, so if you just write self-interest threat, full stop, 0. Self-interest threat, then explain the self-interest threat, 1 mark. It's either 0 or 1, there's no half. Whereas SFQ is half. Self-interest threat, half. Explain, half. Self-review threat, half. Explain, half. You got to get this absolutely right. Because a lot of students will come back, why did I fail AA? I got all my ethics right. I wouldn't know. Okay, but I believe you didn't explain it. Because it's 0 or 1. That's it. Okay, and in your explanation of the threat that was identified by you, he likes you to use the words from the standard. Okay, he prefers you to use words from the standard, but he doesn't say that if you do not use words from the standard, he's going to penalize you. All right, to create the habit now, be it whether SFQ or in a long question, when you identify a threat, you also explain the threat. Don't just put self-interest threat and stop. Explain it. Okay? All right. Self-interest threat can be explained like I've written there. Your reluctance to issue a modified report because of whatever. Okay? You may be reluctant to issue a modified report for whatever reasons, whatever the story tells you. Reluctance to issue modified report is a standard word from the ethical standards. Okay? If you're going to put self-review, then you go on to state that you become too trusting and you may over-rely on your colleagues' work and therefore fail to criticize any shortcomings. You have to state there the full thing to get the 1 mark. Advocacy threat is when you're seen by a third party to be promoting your client's position. And familiarity, you'll be in a predisposed position to accept an insufficiently questioning, or you apply less skepticism. Intimidation is in fear of the threat, then you may impair your objectivity. Okay, and finally, management threat, you may make decisions on behalf of your client and therefore you align towards their interests. Cultivate that habit now. Okay, so if you just write this in an SFQ, you get half. This is SFQ. If it is going to be in a long form question, you just write this, you get 0. But if you write this and this, then it becomes 1.